Hi, guys. It's Heather Morrison with Bold Beyond Belief. It is 1 o'clock. It's ready. It's time for our event. So I'm just checking to make sure that we are live in the Facebook group, just to make sure all of our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed. Make sure. It's coming. It's spooling. I love technology. It's a good thing. And Heather Morrison is live now. Woo! We're official. So, like I said, my name is Heather Morrison with Bold Beyond Belief. And I want to welcome you to this week's Amplify 5-Day Confidence Catalyst. So, first of all, housekeeping rules. I am using StreamYard to go live into Facebook. So StreamYard wants you to register. There should be a link there somewhere where you can register or just simply say yes. And what that does is it allows everyone on Facebook to see the name associated with your comment, because otherwise we just see Facebook user and your comment. So in order for me to see your name so I can respond appropriately, please make sure that you do that and allow StreamYard to let us know who you are. So first of all, I want to say welcome. And I so appreciate you being here. Lots of other things you could do with your time. So I really appreciate that you're spending the next 45 minutes to an hour here. So let me get started here and share my screen. And I think maybe I'm already sharing my screen. Yay, technology. So here we go. So this is, again, the beginning of Amplify. There we go. So now you can see me and you can see the screen and my slides. So click. Here we go. You are in the right place. If you want to amplify your voice and your value and your actions and show it boldly in your own life unapologetically. So let me kind of pull that apart and let you know exactly what that means. When you amplify your voice and your value and your actions, it means that you are standing up for yourself in your own life. And the reason I put your own life there is because I think we tend to stand up boldly in other people's lives, right? And so I want to make sure that you really understand the difference between showing up in other people's lives boldly and showing up in your own life boldly. And then, of course, unapologetically. And I use that word in terms of your values and your voice and your actions being in alignment with who you are and what your core values are and what your goals and your dreams and your desires are. It does not mean that you never apologize. It does not mean that you run roughshod over anybody else and you shove your opinion down other people's throats. That's not what unapologetically means, to me at least. Unapologetically means that I don't make excuses for who I am as a person, and I take personal responsibility for everything that happens in my life. So that's kind of my definition of unapologetically. If that's what you're looking for, you're in the right place. So I wanted to let you know what our schedule is going to be like for the next 5 days. Day 1, which is today, obviously, we're going to amplify your value. Tomorrow, we're going to amplify your voice. And that doesn't mean just your speaking voice, but how you show up in the world in terms of what you are saying to yourself and other people as well. And day number 3 is amplify your mindset. Huge. I could spend months talking about amplifying your mindset, but we're going to try to narrow it down to a little bite-sized hour this week. Amplifying your confidence is day 4. And then number 5, amplify your actions. There's knowing and there's doing. And even if you know all this stuff, unless you're out there doing all this stuff, it's going to fall a little flat, right? So, at the end of Amplify, you will find out 3 things: how to claim your power and start asking for what you want, how to start putting yourself first without guilt, it's possible, and how to create bulletproof confidence no matter what. Does that mean you're never going to be afraid? Nope. Does that mean you're never going to be fearful? Nope. But this will allow you to put up your little Wonder Woman bracelets, pew, pew, and no matter what happens to you in life, you realize you're going to be okay. That's what bulletproof confidence means. So why is this so important? So I love this quote by Harley Davidson. There's actually a Harley Davidson person, or if there's just a company, Harley Davidson. That'd be interesting. If you know, please share in the comments. I know that Ann Taylor, the women's clothing store, there is no person as such thing as Ann Taylor, just something that some marketing company came up with. So I'll have to Google that. Anywho, I digress. Excuse me. But I do love this quote from Harley Davidson. When writing the story of your life, don't let anyone else hold the pen. I love that. So we're going to talk about the whole program, Amplify, is based around you holding the pen in your life, right? You calling the shots in your life, you establishing your value, you establishing your voice and your actions and your confidence on your terms. We are such a society that is so influenced by what other people think. We have to take that power back. Okay? This is how we're going to do it. So grab your pens, speaking of which, and in the Facebook group, I actually put the workbook. It's a super simple workbook. I didn't want you to have to feel like you had to fill in blanks and follow along and that kind of thing. It's just blank pages. So make sure that you carve out this time, this next hour or so, to really focus in on you. Super important. Turn off the notifications on your phone, right? Close all the other tabs. Put the door shut with a little Post-it note on it that says I'm not available for the next hour. And if you're not comfortable with doing that, we're going to talk about how you could do that later on in the week, what that looks like to establish those boundaries and then to keep those boundaries. So this is about you. Now I want to tell you a little bit about me, who your guide is today. I'm a mindset mentor and a confidence catalyst, and I am a coach and a speaker and an author, and I've developed a few programs here and there, but I wanted to let you know that I'm your guide on this. I'm not your teacher. I'm not your guru. I'm your guide on this, which is why I call myself a mindset mentor, because I feel like I'm on this journey with you. And it's really important for me to feel like a partner with you in all of this. I don't like being the one that dictates everything. I love for people to see this and get this light bulb moment and get this click on their own. So the only thing I'm doing is offering up information and then just guiding you through on how you can implement this in your own life. So I wanted to give you a little bit of background story on how this came to be, right? How I showed up and how I kind of developed this program and why I developed this program. I was a woman that, first of all, I was a very confident young girl. I grew up with a mom who told me that I was the cake. This analogy I carry with me 50 years later, that I was the cake in life, and then a man was the frosting. Cake all by itself was fabulous. If I found frosting, which was the man or the spouse or whatever that looked like in my scenario, that was great. But if I didn't, that was okay too. And the reason I share that with you is because I had a mother and I came from a background where it was very empowering to me. And I still grew up with challenges. So it doesn't really matter what your background is. You get to rewrite, right? You get to write your future regardless of your past. Just a little reason why I bring that up. I was an extremely confident girl in terms of business. I worked high-tech marketing for about 15 years. And then marketing, high-tech marketing is predominantly male. I never once walked into a room full of men and thought, oh my God, I'm the only woman here. I walked into that room and thought, we got stuff to do. Let's handle this. So you'd think by looking at me on the first level that I was extremely confident in all areas of my life. This was not the case. I was in San Francisco in college, and I was working in Ann Taylor during college. And I was extremely confident when it came to that. I was a manager at Ann Taylor. It was a huge, big, bustling store. I felt really confident what I was doing, but I was literally dating really bad guys. So during the day, I'd be in my little Ann Taylor suit with my little attaché case, walking around, right? And at night, I'd be literally hanging out with really bad guys, because I was the one that was going to take care of everybody, right? I was the one that was, if you were a project, I wanted to date you. Well, this went on for a very long time until I finally started thinking about, why is there such a huge disconnect between how I perform at work and how I think of myself at work and how I think of myself in my personal life. And I went to work to figure out why that was happening. And this program is a result of that. So I figured out I had a codependent personality, which if you're not familiar with that, it means that you feel the need to take care of everyone, right? You feel responsible for everybody else's actions. You feel like you're going to keep the peace with everybody, right? And that shows up in a whole different various set of ways. But that was me. So this picture on the left is how I was in the business world, superwoman, right? And on the right, I was a doormat. Everybody walked on me. So I went to work to fix it. One of the things I wanted to talk about was, and I alluded to this a little bit, is that you can rewrite your future, right? You can't really rewrite your past, but you can rewrite your future in two different ways. First of all, you can rewrite your future in how you're thinking of yourself now, but you can also rewire your brain to different thinking. And there's so many books on this, and we're going to touch a little bit about this more during the week. But I just want you guys to really just start thinking that the power to change this, your value and your voice and your confidence and your mindset and your actions, all begins with you, right? The power of you and the power of your mind. And so this quote says, "What the mind thinks, the body goes to work to fulfill." Tony Robbins had a story that he shared that stuck with me from a long time ago. And it was, there was two different groups of people. One group of people were given a set of blue pills, and they were told that these blue pills were going to calm them, right? And then the other set of people were given red pills. And the red pills, they were told, were going to excite them and keep them energized during the day and be super focused, etc. And then, of course, there was the placebo, right? So they went through and they had the control group and they went through this experiment, and they discovered that the people that were given the blue pills indeed did have a more calming disposition and described themselves as the medication was helping, and they were more calm. And the people that were in the red group disclosed that they were excited and they were super focused, and they were, able to carry on a conversation better, and they were able to stay focused in their work better, and they didn't have the squirrel syndrome. And then it was revealed that the people that had been given the blue pills actually had been given pills to make them more excited and laser focused and energized during the day. And the people that had been given the red pills were actually given pills that were designed to calm them down. So my point in telling you this story is that their body went to work to fulfill what their brain was taught, what their brain was told. Their brain was told, little blue pill, I'm going to be calm. So there is a placebo effect at work there. But in this case, it's a little bit different because they were told one thing, right? And their body went to work to fulfill that. This experiment just blows my mind, because we're all familiar with the placebo effect. We're all familiar with, I'm told that this pill is going to do something, right? And your body does go to work to fulfill that. But they were actually given pills, like the pills that they were given actually had some active ingredients in them. It wasn't just a sugar pill. It was an active ingredient to make you calmer. And yet their body thought, red, excited, I'm supposed to be excited. So they went to work to fulfill that. And the reason I bring that up is because that's such a great illustration of what your mind thinks, your body and your life fulfills. What your mind thinks, your body and your life fulfills. I really want you to wrap your head around that. And we'll go into greater detail about that during the week. So I wanted to kind of ask some questions here so we can kind of get an understanding of how this kind of shows up in our life. So have you ever, you can raise your hand if you want, felt like you had to apologize for asking for what you wanted? I'm so sorry. Can I have a napkin? Why are you apologizing, right? I'm so sorry. I really need you to, do this or say this or act a certain way or apologize. For crying in public, if you ever apologize for crying in public, I see this, especially now with what's going on, I see this a lot with female newscasters. And I feel so bad for them on one side, but on the other side, I think, why are you apologizing? Don't do that. And to other people's credits, now I see other newscasters saying to them in the interview, don't apologize. No apologies necessary for having that emotion, right? But have you ever apologized for crying in public? Have you ever apologized for charging a client full price? Now, whether you've actually verbalized this or you just thought this in your head, oh God, I'm so sorry that I have to charge them full price, or let me see if I can figure it out so I don't have to charge them full price. You ever made that apology, right? Have you ever apologized for having an opinion? Having an opinion. We all do this, right? We all do this. And the way that this shows up is not stating that opinion. It's not as if a lot of times we say this opinion and then we take it back or we say, I'm sorry for it. We just never state it in the first place. Have you ever apologized when someone bumps into you? What's interesting about this is that I am a big believer, and I said this in the beginning, the word unapologetic does not mean that I walk through my life and I bump people out of the way and I never say I'm sorry. When I bump into somebody, I say I'm sorry. But when someone bumps into me, I apologize for simply taking up space, right? I'm so sorry you bumped into me, right? How many of us have done that? Crazy, crazy. And finally, have you ever apologized for telling someone no? I'm so sorry, but I can't. Right? Here's a side note, and this is a writer downer. No is a complete sentence. No is a complete sentence. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later during this week when we talk about boundaries and action, right? How that shows up for you. So today is all about amplifying your value. Day number 1. So let's get into it. And if you have any questions, please do feel free to put those into the comments. And I will do my best to answer those questions for you as we go along. And if you're watching this on replay, please make sure that you type in replay, and I will answer those questions as well. Excuse me. So how this shows up, we talked a little bit about this. You are a people-pleasing pretzel. Your worth is tied to your self-worth is tied to other people's approval, right? So what that means is try to think of a good way to say this. So what that means is that when you're you feel value by what you can give to others, right? This goes back to that codependency thing. You feel value on what you give to other people, right? And if you can't provide value for other people, you don't feel as valuable yourself. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but this is how it manifests in your life, right? You will get around to your dreams and desires as soon as the kids go to college, you get married, you get divorced, you lose the 10 pounds, right? As soon as everything else is taken care of, then you'll get to your dreams and desires. And this is what I talk about when I say you show up boldly in your own life, right? We always appear on our own priority list dead last after everything else has been taken care of, right? This shows up in your day as well. Your priorities, your dreams, your desires, sitting down to read a book, whatever that looks like for you, happens dead last at the end of the day after everybody else's needs are taken care of. So that's how this shows up. The not having, your own value shows up like this. Number 3, you feel as though you can't show the world your authentic you. And I love that word. I love that word is getting so much play right now, authentic, because it really does nail who you are and what you're feeling, authentic. And it really it really creates such a great visual of opening yourself up and laying yourself bare, laying yourself raw, and being okay with that. That goes back to that bulletproof confidence I talked about in the beginning. So we're going to talk about that, but let's tackle these 3 challenges one by one. Some little tidbits on how you can focus on those. So the first one, and the reason I put choice at the top of this is because these are all things, again, going back to personal responsibility, these are choices that you can make. No one's forcing you to do this, right? Excuse me, I'm gonna grab a drink of water. But these are choices you can make. And when you realize that you have the power of choice in your life, huge. That's a huge game changer. We're going to talk about how to get you that power of choice. So your first choice is you're a people-pleasing pretzel. Your self-worth is tied to other people's approval. So when someone walks into a room, you want to make sure that person is taken care of, right? You want to make sure you're the peacemaker. When someone walks into a room, if their mood is horrible, your mood all of a sudden goes, ooh, right? because now you feel responsible for taking care of someone else's mood. Is that person's mood your responsibility? Nope. But if you're a people-pleasing pretzel, you feel as if everybody's mood in the room is your responsibility. Let me give you an example. When you are on a bus or some sort of public transportation, or even if you're just in a room and there's no empty seats and someone gets on the bus, you feel bad. Oh, I really should get up and give that person my seat, right? Which is nice. That's a very lovely thing to do. But, or for example, if you're at a restaurant and you feel bad and you're like, well, why isn't the maitre d' taking care of those people? Or why isn't that? Whoa, that's not your responsibility. That person's okay. They're fine. They'll find a seat. But for some reason, we feel that that's our responsibility, right? And that's where we get our value. There's also a lot of ego tied up in that. We'll talk about that a little bit later this week. Oh, we're going to unpack so many good things this week. But that's an ego. Right? I'm going to stand up. I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to show them, right? We don't realize that at first blush, but that's what a lot of this is tied up into. So when your husband comes home from work, or your kid comes home from school, or your client gets on the phone and they're in a bad mood, all of a sudden your mood goes along with theirs, goes straight south, right? So, and at the bottom, I put in this little turquoise box, the fix on that. What if for this week, you became an observer and not a fixer? What if you became an observer and not a fixer? What if the next time someone called you on the phone and they were in a rotten mood, your kid came home from school and kicked the couch, or right now he got off his Zoom call from his class and kicked the couch because he was angry about something that somebody said in his class, or your spouse came home, or, somebody cut you off in traffic, right? Or whatever the circumstance was, and that mood went, right? What it said of trying to fix that situation to become an observer. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Huh. Interesting. I wonder what that's about. Not, oh, great. Here we go again. Now my night is ruined because little Johnny's in a bad mood, or Bob's had a really crummy day at work, or those things have nothing to do with you in terms of you making them feel better, right? This is why I call this the power of choice. My son will wake up in the morning and he'll be in a bad mood and he'll do something, and then he'll come in and take it out on me and say, see what you made me do? You make me so angry. And I'll say, it's your choice. Your choice. We all get to choose how we feel. You get to choose if you're happy, mad, sad, or glad, right? So instead of trying to fix that person this week, just become an observer and see if you can start to notice any patterns. See if you can notice that shift within you. If you separate yourself from that other person and their behavior and their moods, I don't mean physically separate, but just mentally separate yourself from that and think, I don't know how to fix this right now. I'm just going to watch and see what happens. See how that shifts your mood this week. Become an observer, not a fixer. Number 2, you feel guilty constantly for not being everything to everybody, especially as women. There might be some men watching this, but majority of people that I deal with are women. We feel the need to be everything to everybody. Just gonna take a moment real quick and see if we have any comments super quick. Make sure that we're still streaming here. And we are. Okay, let's keep going. So you feel like you need to be everything to everybody. You need to be the perfect employee. You need to be the perfect wife or girlfriend. You need to be the perfect mother who dresses her children in the best clothes, who makes sure that she makes homemade cupcakes for the PTO meeting, right? Who makes sure that you're the best employee and you always show up on work and you always show up, you give 110%, right? And you need to be everything to everybody. And again, you've put yourself dead last on your own list of priorities. Who are you to you? Right? Are you showing up more for other people than you're showing up for yourself? Right? And that, going back to that story of, how I was dealing with life in terms of going to work during the day and being this amazing person. And at night, I was not so, hanging out with not so good guys. I felt the need to fix that guy. I felt the need to have him be my next project, right? So for this week, I encourage you to ask people what they need from you. Let me give you a great story around this. So I was talking to a woman who was busting her butt trying to go to her son's football games and to go here and to go there, right? He had a slew of social activities, and it was her job to make sure she kept up with every single one of them, in addition to being a very successful businesswoman, a very present spouse, right? Taking care of the dogs, taking care of this, going to work. And she had said to her son, he made a comment later on, a couple years after this, when he was getting older in high school. And he said they were talking about some book fair at the school. And he said, well, I don't remember you being there. And she's like, what? What? Like, I was on PTO. I busted my butt. I was working really late hours in addition to my job and, keeping the house up to make sure that was coordinated and all this. And he didn't even remember that she was there or that she participated in getting that event streamlined at all. So she decided to sit down with her son and her husband and the rest of the people in her household and say, what is it you need from me? I cannot be everything to everybody. So what is it you really need me to be present for? And he said, I only need you there for my football games, Mom. If you can make sure that you're there at my football games, that's all I really need. That's all I've really ever wanted. So she made sure to be at every one of his football games from that on. And the rest, she dropped. We tend to think everybody's looking at us and thinking, why aren't you this? Why aren't you more? Right? And they're not. They're not. There's been so many times when I've done things for my son and he has no idea. And that's not why we do things, by the way. I don't do things for my son or for my family to get that recognition back, right? I do things and then I let go of the outcome. That's another superpower we're going to talk about later this week, is to let go of the outcome. I don't do those things because I want that justification or that reassurance from other people that I'm amazing. I don't need that in my life, right? It's not why I do things. But I used to, right? Before I let go of other people's expectations of me and before I became an observer, that's all I would do, is how can I make that person better, right? How can I fix this? How can I make this situation go away for you? So ask people this week. If you feel like you are torn in a million different directions, go back to your boss and say, okay, I need you to let me know what my top 3 priorities are this week, and then drop the rest. Right? Or at least put them further down on the list of priorities. I remember when I worked in San Francisco for a woman, and she said, I had just started this job and I felt horrible. I felt like I was messing things up left and right. And so I went to her after a week and I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I have messed up so many things. And she said, I hope none of them were terribly important. She had no idea what I was doing or what I was not doing, right? She was so focused on her things. And here I was thinking that she was looking at my work performance through a magnifying glass. She had other things to concern herself with, right? Just like the people around you do. They have other things to concern themselves with. So stop trying to be everything to everybody. And here's a side note, you'll never be everything to everybody, nor should you be, right? You don't look at your husband for everything. You don't look at your child to perform to perfection on everything. Right. So start interacting with people in your life to determine what's important for you, what's important for them, and drop the rest, or at least put it down a little bit further down on your priority list. Okay. Number 2, you will get, where was I? Okay, here we go. So the second part of this is to realize that these are excuses, right? These are excuses that you're using. I'll get around to fill in whatever your dreams and desires are. When you've lost the 10 pounds, right? Get divorced, ditch a husband, find a husband, whatever that is. Those are excuses. So you really need to embrace what you want. Okay. I love the idea of SMART goals. I'm sure you've all heard of SMART goals, right? If not, you can Google SMART goals. But one of the things, I think they need to turn them into SMARTY goals, SMARTY. Because I think the thing they leave out at the end of those goals is to make sure that the Y stands for you, are these goals that you want, right? Getting your child off to college, that should be a goal, right? But for your child, that shouldn't be a goal for you. Your job is to provide them with all the materials that, all the resources that they need so that they can make that decision and so they can go off and go to college, right? That's not your responsibility. You need to make sure that your goals are tied to what you want. Okay. So going back to, let me get rid of that. So going back to what I said earlier is that there's always going to be something there to take care of, right? If you look for those excuses, to keep you from doing what you really want, you are going to always find those excuses. There's always going to be something to take care of, even when the kids are gone, or you get the divorce, or you get married, or you lose the 10 pounds or whatever. If you're constantly searching for that external validation or that external project, there's always going to be something there to take your mind off of what you really want, really. And so we're going to talk about this in the next bullet point, but to really embrace what you want and decide if it's what you truly want or if it's what somebody else wants, okay? Click. Here we go. So number 3, and again, this goes the authentic word. I love the authentic word. You feel as if you can't show the world your authentic you, okay? So I really want you to explore what this is tied to. Why do you feel you can't explore the authentic you? Okay. My favorite quote is, "The past is a place of reference, not a permanent residence." The past is a place of reference, not a permanent residence. Meaning, there's a lot of things that we hold inside of us and that we don't show to the outside world because we're too afraid we're going to be judged. Okay. Well, if you go into the 7 layers of why, which is a note that I made down in that little rectangular box at the bottom, if you go into the 7 layers of why, and there's no magic number there, it could be the 15 layers of why or the 3 layers of why. 7 seems to be a nice round number. Start asking yourself why. Why do you feel that you can't show the world your authentic you? Why is that? Well, because then they'll see how, how I'm not good at public speaking. Okay. So why does that bother you? Well, because then I'll feel nervous and people will see that I'm not a good speaker, or that I don't know my reference material, or, okay, why is that? Well, because, and the more you dive deep into that, and literally get a piece of paper out, write down your why, and keep peeling back that onion in layers, it usually ends up with something from your childhood. Now, here's what I'll say about going back to your childhood. Again, the past is a place of reference, it's not a permanent residence. Once you figure out the bottom why of why you're doing these things, why you're keeping yourself going forward with these things, right? It's not your place to, don't get stuck there, right? Don't ruminate about it. Figure out why, look at the gift that gives you and move forward from that. So it might look something like this. I don't like public speaking. Well, why don't you like public speaking? Well, because when I dial down to all my 7 layers of why, I realized that when I was in 4th grade, I was in a spelling bee and I got up and I spelled the last word wrong and I lost, and the kids laughed at me. Now that event, this is what I call my fear filter. That event is what you've run every single experience about getting up in front of people through for the rest of your life, right? So it keeps us from moving forward because we've never sat down to explore why, okay? Here's an interesting thing about that. Or sometimes it may have been a teacher that told you something about you, or it was a parent that told you could never amount to anything, or, it was a kid on the playground, or it was a music teacher, or a fill in the blank, wherever you got that information and that programming from to begin with, for whatever reason, you are running your entire life through that, your entire, experiences and thoughts about public speaking through that, based on a comment that somebody made to you, right, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, that chances are was a flippant remark they don't even remember making, and they made it about a person that doesn't exist anymore, right? You're not that fourth grader in the spelling bee anymore. You're an adult, right? Do you see how interesting that looks once you put it in that perspective, right? I think there should be a class that when you hit 18, it's a deprogramming class, right? And you get to figure out all of this. You get to map it all out of what junky things people have told you in your childhood so that you can release those things and say, thank you for the lesson, and then kiss them goodbye, right? Wrap up your past in a tiny little box and kiss it goodbye and learn the lessons from that, but don't stay stuck there, right? So really this week, start learning that when you start thinking about why I don't want to do something, where's the resistance there? Ask yourself the 7 layers of what. Why is there resistance? Well, it just makes me nervous. But why are you nervous? Well, just because, and fill in the blank and see if there's one thing that you can come up with this week to discover why you're not moving forward with something. Why are you using that excuse of the 10 pounds or the kids off to college instead of moving forward with it, right? And number 2, do you know who your authentic person is? Do you know who that person is? For a lot of, again, going back to women, we are someone's mom and we are someone's spouse and we are someone's employee and we're the one that's take care of the dog and we're this and we're that and the other thing. Do you know what the authentic person is? Right? Time this week, determine your core values, and that'll really help you. So let me explain what core values are. And I put a list of them, by the way, in your workbook. I want to say it's like page 2 or page 3. If you're not familiar with what core values are, right? If you think of this as a table, a 4-legged table, I want you to pick 5 core values this week, just 5, because any more beyond that, they're not really core values, right? Pick 5. Think of the 4 as supporting the top one. The top one that makes up that tabletop is going to be your most important core value. And then the other 4 are going to support those core values. Those are things that are important in your life, but not as important as that tabletop. So let me give you an example of mine. My core value is personal power. Personal power. And at the end of the day, ultimately, that's the filter that I run everything through in my life. What my business looks like, what my calendar looks like, who I am, who I show up with in the world, who I'm spending my time with in the world, who I'll allow in my space in the world, all goes through that personal power, right? And if they're leeching that personal power from me, it doesn't make it into my life. That's my filter. My second one is service, right? This is leg number 1 of my table, service, okay? It pleases me to no end to be of service to other people. Number 3 is humor. And when I figured out that I could bring in humor into my business, huge realization for me. Because remember, I was that really confident woman in business, but for some reason I felt like I had to keep my business and my personal personalities separate, right? I didn't want to show anybody that I had that sense of humor because then they wouldn't take me as seriously, right? But now it infuses everything that I do. Authenticity, right? That's why I love that word so much. This is me, warts and all. This is it, right? And I don't make apologies for this, is it? Because I'm a human, and that's what we're supposed to be, authentic and out there, right? And then self-expression. So that's what my business is all about. That's what my life is all about, is self-expression, expressing to people who I am. Right? Not keeping that bottled up inside. So this week, I really encourage you to look through that list of core values, choose 5, figure out what your table is, your table legs and your tabletop, and then start thinking about the things in your life that are showing up and are they in alignment with those core values? And again, that's a really big exercise. And in my group program, we really uncover all that stuff because that takes a little bit deeper dive. But I just want you to just start, breaking the surface of that. Just start thinking about that. And here's a clue: if you are having a hard time between, like for me, personal power or authenticity, if you can think, okay, if I could only have one versus the other, if I could only have personal power for the rest of my life versus authenticity, which would I? What can I not live without? And for me, it was the personal power. So that's an easy way to figure out what goes on top of that tabletop. So again, look at those 7 layers of why and figure out what your core values are. That'll really help. I want to play a commercial for you. It's called Sorry, Not Sorry. And it was by Pantene, the hair company, right? They make shampoos and conditioners. And it's all about how we apologize in our lives, how that shows up. And I really want you to pay attention to a couple of things. First, I really want you to pay attention to their body language, right? Between the before and after. And what happens to their body when they say sorry versus not sorry, okay? And then the second thing is I want you to see if you can identify with any of these, if you've ever done any of these things. I love the power of this commercial. I think this should be like mandatory required reading for every single kid, especially as we're growing up. So let me see if I can play it here. Okay, give me a sec here. I'm going to stop my screen. There I am. And I'm going to share my screen. And then I'm going to determine what to share it with. So, Crown tab. Here we go. And this is called Why Are Women Always Apologizing? Turn it up. See if we can go full screen on this. Oh, holy moly. There it is. Okay. Give me just a sec. Technology is wonderful. Full screen, play on TV. Okay.
Sorry, can I ask a stupid question?
Sorry, do you have a minute? Sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, there he is. My vice president.
Sorry. Sorry.
Sorry.
Did I?
was too.
Sorry, I'm the person.
I was gonna say. I have a question. Why don't we go back to the original thing?
Morning. Do you have a minute?
Sorry, not sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
I love that commercial. I love that commercial so much. Again, I think that should be required reading for so many people, for young girls. And okay, let me share my screen again. We'll get back to the presentation. Chrome tab. Look at me. I'm such a pro at this. Ta-da! Okay. So I really wanted you to pay attention to body language and just the way that they talked the second time around. And this goes back to me when I said unapologetically in the first place. I think that people get the wrong connotation or the wrong feeling when I say unapologetic. Unapologetic, you didn't see any of those women being rude. You didn't see any of those women barging in and saying, you need to listen to me right now. My opinion's the only one that matters. That's not how they showed up, right? But there was such a subtle nuance. There was such a subtle difference in the way they showed up. But can you feel the power? I don't know if you saw me like halfway through, I just started smiling. I just love that commercial. It's so much more powerful. So this week, when you're in a situation, and it takes time, you guys, all of these habits take time and practice. This was a big one for me. Instead of saying, I'm sorry, say thank you. Instead of saying, I'm sorry, say thank you. So this is what this looks like. And I apologize. I think this is, I don't know what it's looking like for you on your screen, but on my screen, it's looking a little blurry. So I'm going to go through these real quick. So instead of saying, I'm sorry for being late, thanks for waiting for me. Again, this goes back to that ego. Remember I talked a little bit about ego a little while ago and taking yourself out of it. Ego doesn't mean you think highly of yourself, and ego, that's one component of it. But one component of your ego is that it needs to be stroked all the time, right? And in you looking for your value, you're tying your value to someone else's opinion. Part of that is apologizing, because what you're looking for, what your ego is looking for, is someone to come back at you and validate you. So when you say, oh, I'm so sorry I'm late, and then you launch into your excuses, what you're looking for is someone to come back to you and say, that's okay. And no worries, it happens to everybody. I just noticed my dogs opened up the door. You're looking for someone to come back and validate you, right? And if you're walking into a meeting, this would always tick me off in corporate America. If you're walking into a meeting 5 minutes late, just sit down. Thanks for waiting for me. And just sit down so we can continue with the meeting, as opposed to you've shown up 5 minutes late, you've interrupted the meeting. Now you're going to take even more time out of the meeting to explain why you're late and wait for us all to validate you. Just sit down. Just sit down and say, thank you for waiting. Can you see the difference there between the two? The second one is, I'm sorry I've been so needy lately. We say this often to our girlfriends, right? I'm sorry I've been so needy lately. I feel like I've been so whiny, as opposed to, thank you for being there for me. I really appreciate it. Right? Again, this is that looking for that validation, that external validation. When you say to someone, I've been sorry I've been so needy lately, you're expecting them to say back to you, oh, it's okay. Don't apologize. You're a human being with human needs, right? Thank you for being there for me. The third one is, I'm sorry to ask you for another favor. Okay. Instead of, hey, thanks for helping me out. I know that myself, this is so funny, and this is so ironic that we do this. I love helping people. One of my core values is service, but I have a hard time asking for help from somebody else. Yeah, so I'm robbing someone else of that joy for helping me, right? Instead of just saying, hey, thanks for helping me out. I really appreciate you kicking in and doing, because that's going to give them a good feeling as well, right? People like to help other people. So instead of just saying, I'm sorry, I'm asking you for another favor. Don't be sorry. If you're truly sorry, don't ask me for the favor in the first place, right? Again, that goes back to you feeling the need to have your ego stroked. Instead of just say, hey, thanks so much for helping me out. I really appreciate it. Number 4, I'm sorry I made a mistake, right? Instead of, oh, thanks for pointing out my mistake, right? You made a mistake because it was a mistake, okay? I think there is time and place for an apology. I absolutely do. If there was malicious intent, right? That's when you say, I'm so sorry for doing that, right? Or if you, bumped into someone, stepped on someone's foot, are you offering condolences to someone because they've lost a loved one? Those are certainly appropriate times for offering apologies. I'm not saying we never apologize. I'm just saying pick what you're apologizing for and really look at the reason behind why you feel the need to offer that apology. Number 5, I'm sorry, but I can't make it tonight. Oh, this happens all the time. We feel the need to make excuses for why we can't either A, be there so we have to reschedule, or not take something on in the first place, right? No is a complete sentence. Write that down. Write that down. No is a complete sentence. So when you say to someone, I'm sorry, but I can't make it tonight, just, hey, thanks so much for inviting me tonight. I'm just not going to be able to make it. Boom, done. Don't launch into I can't make it because, and then blame someone else, or talk about how you're just loaded down with even more stuff. We're going to talk about boundaries and how you can stop being loaded down with so many things, right? That's going to be our discussion later this week. But just to simply say, thank you so much for inviting me. You see, I almost said I'm sorry. It's a habit. It takes a while to get used to, right? It takes a while to train yourself. But just thanks so much for inviting me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thanks so much for inviting me. I can't make it. Whew, tough. Takes time. I'm sorry for being so emotional. Oh, this one breaks my heart. Again, this goes back to that newscaster saying, I'm so sorry, I'm crying. Why are you sorry? You're having an emotion. Please don't apologize for that. So instead you could say, thank you for loving me. Thank you for loving me. Don't say thank you for putting up with me. That's your job as a human being, is to embrace other people and to put up with them, quote unquote. But don't thank someone for putting up with me. Thanks so much for putting up with me. I know I can be a giant pain in the ass. No, this is who I am. Again, that goes back to that being unapologetic. This is who I am, warts and all. Thank you for loving me. I really appreciate it. Okay, lastly, I'm sorry that I've been distant. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for being so understanding, right? So I just wanted to drop those in there because I think it's really important, because this one step is tied so much to our value. And when we're apologizing so much, we are giving away our value. Stop giving away your value and your power. Again, this goes back to the power of choice. We teach people how to treat us. We teach people how to treat us. And so if you're constantly apologizing for things, you're sending the message out there that you have things to apologize for, right? And I think that a lot of this is societal norms as well, and societal expectations. And I see this all over the place, the sorry, not sorry, right? It's a big hashtag movement right now. So I think the more people that can get into that habit, which is all it is, the easier it will be for people, and the more we'll start pointing that out to each other. Like I said, that one female interviewer said to the other female interviewer, "Don't apologize." I applaud that so much. And so I think, this is a big ship to turn. You heard me say it myself, right? Sorry. This is a habit. It just takes practice. But what's behind that habit? That's what I want you to start exploring this week. Okay. And finally, I want to leave you with the Dalai Lama. Who doesn't love a little Dalai Lama in their life? This quote says, "When you think everything is someone else's fault, you will suffer a lot. When you realize that everything springs only from yourself, you will learn both peace and joy." Okay. The reason I bring this up is because I really want you to start thinking that all of these things are within your control. All of these things that we're going to talk about this week are within your control. And when you can start taking personal responsibility for how you feel, right? That goes back to you get to choose if you're happy, mad, sad, or glad, right? You get to choose how other people treat you, right? You get to choose if you're going to show up for that behavior. You get to take that responsibility back. If you can start this program from a place of personal empowerment, huge, right? And we're going to unpack a little bit more this week about how you can get to that place of personal empowerment. So I want to check really quick, see if there's any last comments here. We talked a million miles a minute. We talked about a lot of things. You've got access to this presentation if you want to go back through and check anything. In the Facebook group, I'm just going to go ahead and write down some little actions that you're going to take. If you could write down, let us know what your core values are this week. That would be huge. And then one thing that you're going to unpack the 7 layers of why about, right? You don't have to go into specifics. You don't have to, let us know what the backstory is. Just something like, I hate public speaking, or I like asking for a raise, or, whatever that looks like for you. Something that you've been dealing with for a really long time that you're kind of, it's just an automatic for you. And you're not exactly sure why you've had a difficult time with this. Or even if you are sure why, pop that in the comments. Let us know what's one thing that you're really going to do a deep dive on, or start to just become an observer on this week. That and your core values. I'd love to see both of those in and I'll make it, like I said, I'll make a little post so you guys can just comment right underneath it. You don't need to start a new thread. And we will see you back here tomorrow. I'm going to stop screen sharing my presentation. Stop, so you can see my face. And so we will see you back here tomorrow. This is going to go every single day, Monday through Friday, from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. We had a little bit of housework to do today, housekeeping to do today, so probably won't take any more than like a half an hour, 45 minutes next time. Today was value. Tomorrow is going to be voice. That is a big one. It's something that I get really, really passionate about. So I cannot wait to see you guys here tomorrow. Let us know about those core values. Let us know about that something you're going to take a deep dive in the 7 layers of why on. And I will see you mañana. Get some really good sleep. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.